welcome to our Academy 1 Republic breakdown. In this Academy 101, we will be covering Republic list building. Essentially, what is the meta list? What are their staples? And how can you deconstruct it? We want to review strengths and weaknesses, kind of how you do obstacle placement, how to fly each one of the different lists, and then discuss objective play and maybe how to counter it. Now, I chose Republic specifically because there was so much bloody Republic going on, and I don't think it's going to stop because of the Han stuff. So a lot of people think this Padme arc list is a big counter to Han because that's what I can't remember the gentleman's name, but that's what the gentleman Paul Heaver was making a big thing. That's why he built that list specifically that we hadn't seen. So I felt, while I'm not 100% in agreement that this is a Han counter specifically, I will say it does affect the Han list to some extent, except for if you're not in Padme's arc. So if you can get away from Padme's arc, which is easy to do, the list then just kind of becomes more of an Alpha Strikey style list. Now, I felt it was like something that I wanted to do tonight over the Resistance because I think there's some more nuance in Resistance than we have given them credit for. And I think there's a lot more Resistance discussion to be had than I felt up to for tonight. So we are going to go to our Republic section. I will say I added a Republic list, and you can laugh and make fun of me all you want. I don't care. But I added one that I felt was is a decent list that may not 100% always show up in the meta, but I think it shows up or could show up more. Now, this is the very standard basic build, and I think one of the discussions I think we need to have is whether you take custom build Wolf over SOC Wolf, and in this specific list. So I think we need to add that as a discussion point because I think people are just used to this list is very easy to take for a new player to pick up and take the minimal amount of cards, right? You're taking very few cards. There is gimmicks in this list that you will not get as a newer player, but I do think that this list is something that is designed by AMG to some extent to help new players kind of get into the game. So, who wants to take this list and run it down for us?
I'll do it.
Okay, JJ, by all means.
All right. So we got, we'll start off with Anakin, the Siege Coruscant version with Malice, the ancillary ion weapons, and R2D2 astromech. We got Padme Amidala with marksmanship, passive sensors, and proton torpedoes. Siege of Coruscant Wolf, Jag, and Oddball to round off the list there. So essentially you got three very, very chunky ships in the ARC 170s with Wolf, Jag, and Oddball that can essentially be those jousting blocks that go down the lane that they're designated to help gum up and shoot down anything that crosses its path. They work very, very well together because they can provide each other with the necessary tokens that they need on offense for each ship to use to get pretty much like double-modded shots and such. So if you're not familiar with their abilities, Oddball, after he performs a red action, or performs a red maneuver, he can select an enemy ship at range 0-1 and a friendly ship at range 0-3 and allow that ship to gain a target lock on that enemy ship. So you can set yourself up with a lock to be double modded after you perform like a bump red focus with Oddball. And if you don't use that target lock, you can Wolf can use that target lock, or if you do use it and you're in the side arc of Jag can grab a target lock onto that ship, and then Wolf, if he has that ship in his arc, can use that target lock that Jag acquired. And then if Wolf is also in Jag's side arc, then after he shoots, Jag can reacquire a lock onto the same ship, and that just creates that energy bubble that makes him very, very efficient on offense. Now, what made its prominence with Paul Heaver is Padme's ability. If Padme has the attacker in her arc, they cannot mod more than one focus during their attack, and that makes it really difficult for ships that rely on those multiple mods, namely Han, to reliably convert those focused results into hits. And that's mainly why Padme was introduced into this particular archetype. But you also add in that passive sensors, which allows Padme to acquire lock during her initiative and then shoot those proton torpedoes, most likely after when those arcs already like soften up a target. You want Padme to go in there to deliver that punishing blow with proton torpedoes. And then Anakin Skywalker is that initiative 6. Probably not going to be contributing as heavy to the offense as the rest of the list is, but with the ancillary ion weapons, you can use Malice to change a hit into a crit, and if it does go through, you can potentially knock out somebody's target lock on one of these arcs, and it just helps keep those ships alive defensively on there. So that's the basic synergy for this list.
Yeah, I mean, it the big part about it comes from arcs are pretty chunky. They're 3 attack out the front, 2 out the back. All of them can shoot front back, and just that target lock sharing, like like you said, oddball. Even if you don't get the ability, you get your side arc a Jag. You shoot, Jag gets a lock. Wolf shoots, he spends Jag's lock. If he's the side, Jag gets another lock. So it's like that, just triangle. And that bump focus with oddball is huge. You can set up Padme if Padme's close and you don't need the passive. If they have like a lower initiative ship or something, if you bump them, you can just pass the lock to Padme, and Padme can just shoot a focused target locked Protorp. Anakin is very good for the objectives. He is a nice 6, so taking a scramble action is pretty good. You got 3 force. Worst comes to worst, if you have an arc around you, you have Born for this. Also, Born for this really helps keep Padme alive for when her passive sensors is active. So if they do start trying to burn down Padme, you can have that at most 3 focus tokens from your arcs. So that really helps with the defense. I think the main strength of this list is that it's hard to burn down arcs fast enough in 3 of the objectives. And if you do, it's only 4 points. And in chance, you half them. That's like 5 damage, right? And you get 2 points out of it. And they're going to be shooting back at you with 3 dice. And if you surround them, they're shooting 2 of your ships now. So it's just a very balanced list. It has been like quote unquote underperforming, I guess, against Han. It's not a silver bullet to a Han list.
No.
And this list is very difficult to play at a high level, and especially if your opponent knows what they're doing with turn 0 rock placement. But you can get away with just straight jousting things with arcs. That works for some lists. So that's why it's like by far the most popular Republic list. And to answer your question earlier, Tanner, you bring SOC Wolf in this kind of list over customizable Wolf just because Jag is just reoccurring that target lock the whole time.
Yeah,
So
and you get the Wolf back, right? You know.
Yeah. And Born for this, again, keeping like Padme alive, or maybe any of your other arcs that shot the focus, because arcs, they care that they have a strain, but it's 1 die or 0 dice, right? It's not like the biggest.
They only care so much because, as I explained last week, you can focus fire on a arc and not be guaranteed to murder it, even in 2 turns. Sometimes it takes too long to kill an arc. And I think, we talk about how many churns and how much point value do you have to get out of your arcs. Well, if 3 ships spend 3 churns shooting 1 arc to kill it, you've now wasted more than a quarter of the game murdering 4 points. And that's, like when we talk about the Han list, right? Like Han is really good because it's I6. It can double tap. Han's decently maneuverable. Though you know where Han wants to be by rock placement. And I think this list gives you some more versatility to it. And if you are really good at aces, like this list is great for. I know only one's an ace player, but this is a great list for an ace player because you can use the one ship as an ace and everything else as a hammer. For it. And I think, again, that kind of talks about what is the strategy. Do you always run Padme with the arcs? Can you run Padme as on the side and then kind of use her as a pincer of some sort? Do you always want to run in a standard block with this list?
Yeah, I think that if you're a player that wants to get the maximum out of this particular list with Padme, this is one of those. These are one of those lists where you want to deploy Padme, like offset from the arc block, so that way you can give her enough space to come in, for when you're planning to set up the initial engagement, and come in from like another vector, so that way she can potentially be modded with an evade token, in the event that your opponent decides to turn all the attention into Padme, or if you're just within in range to get a proton torpedo off, you can just use that passive sensors in there. You don't want to set up Padme right next to the RX, mainly because you're going to run into an issue when it comes to turning, because that is the hardest part about this list is learning how to stagger the arcs, so that way you can create kind of like a step ladder formation, and that way they can all either turn in hard, or gradually turn in with banks, and keep time on target that way. Now, if you're countering this list here, like Alex said, setting up the turn zero is very very key, right? Because you want to set up a good cluster of rocks, towards like creating like a line where they have to sift out and like spread out, so that way they're not all have the same arcs on target. And if you're able to do that, you're able to really focus fire down these arc 170s and burn them down, especially if you happen to catch one outside of the arc of Padme. um, you're able to really focus all your efforts going in there. The other part of it too is, don't be afraid to go against Padme Amidala. She can definitely mess up your offense with her ability. But at the same time, if you roll blanks, or if you roll natural hits or crits, then you don't have to worry about it. And I can tell you, as a person who's been testing out Padme Amidala pretty extensively these last few weeks, for Nickel City League, I can tell you that a lot of times people just get around Padme by just rolling good, and not having to worry too much about the focuses on there. And she can burn down fairly easy, especially if she did not do the 3 straight or the 4 straight to properly like get her full token there. So,
You know what
but yeah,
Padme hates? Padme hates rogues. Good
yes,
rolling rogues. That's
oh
what
yeah,
she hates.
oh yeah. Yeah, honestly, for me, I've kind of gone away from using Jag, and turned to Luminara, so that way I
What?
can, yeah, because you can, when an attacker is attacking one of your friendlies, you can use Luminara that they don't have their target in the bullseye, and turn down one of their hits into a focus. So you can aggressively proc Padme's ability a lot more. And then I have Juke on Padme so that we can do it on offense as well. And it's been working pretty good. I actually prefer that to really make Padme work, over Jag. Honestly, but that's me. That's my preference. So
Yeah, Padme's ability doesn't come up too much, but you can force it to come up with someone
yeah,
like Lumi and Juke,
yeah,
and that's why
hmm
it's good.
yeah.
All right. So with this list, obstacle placement is very imperative. So if you get to go first, are you in this list? Do you want to be first player or second player for turn 0?
You want to be second player for turn 0. The reason being is that you can see where your opponent's going to place that first rock and make sure that the rocks, the largest rocks that they're going to place, is going to be on the far end as much as possible. And then after you do that, you can see where they deploy their ships, and then that way you can counter deploy in the right area and set your ships up so that way they can come in on, on and have a path to joust the more effective way. And don't be afraid to split up the arcs in the beginning on turn 0, especially if you can find multiple paths for them to converge on a vector. So that way they can set up the jousting blocks. You just gotta make sure that whenever you're dialing in the maneuvers for that arc that's offset, that you account for the amount of space that they have to cover in order to catch up for those straight jousting arc 170s, and kind of slow down those arc 170s, and so that way the flanking one can catch up and get shots in on the same time.
Alex, any other thoughts on turn 0?
There's a pretty easy, not like easy, but if you know a way to block like the convergence of arcs, this list gets significantly more difficult to pilot. Um, I can't explain it because like we don't have like visuals or anything, and it's very convoluted. But there's ways like where you just kind of you can't shimmy a couple arcs through this area, and that's really devastating to this kind of list. You have to be very good at flying 3 different initiative arc medium base ships, and that's kind of the difficult part. So turn 0 is pretty important, but if your opponent doesn't know how to do that, things get a lot easier because you can kind of spread out those obstacles, bring some smaller ones, and have your arcs actually do a lot of work.
So, and really, we talk about objective placement with this list. So, like, obviously, are you picking up crates with this list? Do you want to pick up crates? Do you really like assault is pretty easy if you can get some objectives in your cluster formation of where you're going to fly. And I think it's very telltale with this list. Like this list is very, if you put a block of 3 together, we know where your arcs are going to be. We just know, like we know you're going to go there. And then obstacles are going to come in to, block you. So the question is there a way to kind of fool your opponent maybe a little bit with obstacle placement?
For like objectives,
Yes. Sorry. Objective placement. I apologize. That's what I meant.
like assault, you have the advantage because you have 3 medium base ships.
Yeah.
So you want to maybe put a rock that's a little bit offset so they can't put exactly between 2 objectives. And if you're going against it, you want to spread out your objectives to like a 2.5 kind of, or like a like 2.5 kind of range from the center instead of directly at like 2, just to kind of push it out a little bit. Especially if you have large bases. Large bases will make both those objectives, but medium ones won't. But yeah, like assault, you have the advantage going to assault unless you're going like against a lot of large base ships, and that's not too big of a thing in this meta. But for like salvage, like Jag has no problem picking it up just because he gets locks. All your arcs can share focuses too, so really you can pick them up. You probably drop them more because they're 1 agility, but you can like pick it up and not worry too much about action efficiency. You probably aren't getting 1 rounded off the board. And depending on how you play Padme, if you don't boost with her a lot or barrel roll with her a lot, she's not too bad of a crate carrier. Worst comes to worst, she can 5 straight get an evade and focus. I mean, I guess same with Anakin with the force and evades, but it's pretty. It's okay in salvage. Probably a little bit better than average. Great at assault. Scramble, you have Anakin, so that helps a little bit. And again, your actions aren't the most like you can get away with one arc hitting the button. So it's a
Yeah, and the,
solid all around objective list. And we already
And-
talked about chance, right? Because that's
yeah. Yeah, and the other part too for Scramble too is that since they're medium bases, you can essentially set yourself up to block your opponent from claiming those objectives, especially with like Jag. He's really good at Initiative 3, just going into the area where an objective is and just setting up a block to prevent your opponent from claiming that particular scramble. So yeah.
All right. Anything else about this list, or shall we move on to the next one?
Yeah, let's go on to the next.
All right. Anakin and Friends is the title of this one. This one is. I don't know. Anakin was a friend in the other one, wasn't he? I mean, I don't know. Alex, what is this list?
okay. So this is a 7B Anakin, which you'll see occasionally. In this particular one, this is what you would typically see on Anakin is Predator R4P17 and Shield Upgrade. R4P17 works pretty good with Anakin's ability. Still get an action after you do the red thing or red maneuver. You can spend a force to get rid of the stress and then do your normal action. You get 2 free actions. This also has SOC Oddball, SOC Jag. And then it says Contrail with Proton Bombs dedicated R4P. And the Bash config giving it the slots. And then you have Boost with dedicated. Boost being I3 is also the same with Jag. Contrail and Oddball are I5. And then you got Anakin and I6. And it is a relatively hard-hitting list that has a little bit of durability with dedicated. And people are bad against bombs, so Contrail's great.
Yeah, it's true. Also, you run the risk of hitting your own Arc 170s with the bomb.
Yeah, they could take a bomb. They're good. They got 3 shields.
So
Or 4
did,
for Oddball.
did you really make this list? Because I mean, there's only 2 dedicated in here, Alex.
I didn't make this list.
Just saying, there's only 2 dedicated. What's going on, man?
So I think this is one of the cases where I would actually prefer custom Wolf over Jag in this scenario, just because I4 and you can take advantage of Wolf's ability a little bit more for offense, but still, it's still pretty solid either way.
Yeah, and if you bring like build your own Wolf, you can also bring Slider, who's the same initiative as Wolf as well.
Exactly,
Because you have 2 options for the Z95s, one being a 3 and one being a 4.
Yeah,
I like Boost better than Slider.
Yeah, I was gonna say using Boost ability on those Arc 170s, that's pretty nice.
Boost can only use it for himself.
Oh, you can't. I thought Boost was.
No, that's like a obscure torrent that no one ever uses.
No, I'm thinking of Hawk.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Boost lets you just boost in the system phase. If the boost action, sorry, not in the system phase, at the start of engagement, if you or a ship around you at range 1 has done a blue maneuver,
yeah,
and
that's what
that
I'm
is
thinking.
really good. There's been so many times where like I'm playing a buddy or something, and he's like, "Cool, I have this amazing range 1 target lock shot with Defender Vader." And I'm like, "Well, I'm going to boost right past you because I don't want to be shot by that." And there's like my most fun boost I've ever done with Boost was back in 2.0. I had a Procket on him. Oh, it might have been 2.5, early 2.5. I had a Procket on Boost. I did like a 2 hard. I blocked Boba Fett. Another ship around me did a blue, so I boosted past Boba Fett because it's like a 45-degree block, and lined up my Procket to shoot the Hawk behind Boba Fett. So you can do silly shenanigans with that. I love Boost. With dedicated, you can actually really control the side arc where you can use dedicated with Boost at the engagement you see and you know where every ship is. So you can adjust that angle that dedicated. But Slider is also better for like salvage because that side slip he doesn't drop. And he can do it while stressed because it's a blue side slip.
That's right.
Side slip and boost is disgusting.
So with this list, this is obviously definitely not a block formation type list, right? You're not block forming anywhere with this type of list. So what's the idea behind how you play this list?
There's a couple different ways, right? You can have Anakin buy people, or you can have Anakin um, doing a not literal lone wolfing it, just being around. Because like Oddball and Jag, they're not too tethered, but they're. I mean, you want to have someone in Jag side arcs. And Oddball can facilitate like Contrail if you just take the focus with him and then pass him the lock for that bash. But basically, yeah, I mean, you just have Oddball, Jag somewhere pretty close, Boost pretty close to that, and then you got a solid line of ships. You can flank with Contrail. You can try to bait with Contrail, which is what you probably should do because you got proton bombs, so people will follow you. And then Anakin just comes in as the hammer, and he tries to just ace people off the board. Well, Oddball and Jag do a lot of damage.
Yeah, this feels like a hammer and anvil type list, right? You know, you want to soften people up with Anakin, and then Oddball and Jag can come in and take care of the rest, right? Since they will most likely still be double modded or at least single modded, and if you try against to go against Anakin, just that 7B chassis ability to kind of get out of dodge and arc dodge if you need to. You're probably going to leave yourself flanked by the rest of the list, and it's very tough to prioritize who you want to take on in this list. Now, that being said, Arc 170s are still one agility ships. So they can be burned down rather fast. So if you are playing this list, you don't want to leave your Arc 170s unprotected. They can tank 2, maybe 3 hits. But once they start going into that hole, those critical effects can really mess up the effectiveness of those Arc 170s. So make sure you keep any close by to make sure you can punish anybody who's ignoring them.
All right. So setup wise for this list, right? So setup wise, this list is a little bit more versatile. You don't need to fly in blocks. Obviously, Anakin's going kind of in a corner to do a flanking maneuver, or Anakin could be going next to the arcs to say, "Hey, if you are going to joust, I'm going to put Anakin there." And guess what? Who you're not going to kill is Anakin. Um, Anakin could die, but Anakin being able to throw those crits is that's pretty good, right? You know, like the ability to get that off with the re-rolls is super good. So with this list, objective wise, where are you placing objectives? Like, this list probably does not suffer to any specific objective. It feels decently well rounded to every single one.
Yeah, I think you can play one objective deep on your side just for
Which
boost.
scenario, man? You gotta pick it. You got
Sorry,
you guys.
for salvage. That's what I meant.
There
I'm
you-
sorry. For salvage, you can place one really deep back because you have boost who can go in and just grab that fast if you need to. Even if he's not using his ability on himself, he can
So
still
tragic.
back up the rest of the list with it with the Arc 170s. Or Contrail as well, although Contrail does like that boost lock linked action there. But those are options there for you. I would still consider using Oddball and Jag, especially if they're slow rolling as well, to be those cargo carriers, just to attract people towards their front arcs, and make them joust you. In order for Anakin to come in from the side, and then Boost can go deep into the enemy territory, get around them, and grab the objective on that side if they happen to neglect that over there. That's how I would play that.
Yeah, salvage I think is the weakest for this most, but so I'm very aggressive with my contrail, so I'm almost boosting every round. So I like having the ability to boost with contrail. I like having boost, being able to actually boost. Again, it gets you out of a lot of crazy situations. I understand it's a 2-point ship and it's a good salvage carrier. It just kind of sucks. But yeah, you know, assault, same thing. You got arcs. You have a boost who can get to places that they might not have expected because he has an engagement phase boost. And then Anakin can do whatever he wants. He's really good in scramble. with that fine-tuned controls, being able to boost or barrel roll and then do your action is critical for um, scramble, especially when you have more force that you can burn.
Yeah, and I think so. And I think when we talk about obstacles, this list is more versatile, right? You don't have to. Here, to me, I think you take gas clouds, right? Like I think that's kind of what you want to take more than rocks, because you don't care as much if you get ionized in the long run. You still get your focuses. Um,
Can't born for this one. You're strained though.
all right, I guess that's fair. I guess that's fair. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you can pretty much bring any obstacle with this list, and I'm pretty sure there's probably a correct way of setting up obstacles with this list, but I don't think it matters as much as, like say, the Padme list before this.
Yeah, because in this list you don't have to worry about making sure Padme gets the arcs at the same time, and like so in this list your goal is not as much to create like a 3 objective zone where you could plant a specific ship to grab 3 objectives in one round. I think you put the one at the back and you pick who's going to pick it up. Is it going to be Boost? Is it going to be Contrail? Is it going to be one of your arcs? Your biggest issue here is if you give an arc a crate, where's the firepower? They have to come to you, and maybe that's not the end of the world, right? I mean, they have 4Ks for Christ's sake. Like they can 4K and make it white too. So, like that's kind of the best part about that is like you can be stressed with an arc and still 4K. You don't get an action, but you can do it. You can still R4P.
What are you saying? No, R4P is not
it's
advanced
basic.
maneuvers, basic maneuvers.
Yeah, basic maneuvers only.
Oh,
so you
well,
could do the
stupid,
3
then.
hard or the 4 straight.
Oh, all right. Well, that's dumb then.
Or more usually make your 2 hard a blue after you do a 4K.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
he's only 2 points, man. That'd be incredible as was mini Leia.
But either way, so to me, I don't know. I guess I know you don't want to be strained, but to me, either you bring small obstacles or you're bringing your whatchamacallits, gas clouds to mess with some of the other ships. But I don't know. Anything else on this list before we move on?
I don't think so, no.
All right. The next list that we have is, I called it Rickety Whack in honor of Rick and Morty this weekend. But like this is again, we're using similar pieces with the Oddball and Jag. This one has more of the dedicated feel with Boost and Slider. Those are your objective pieces, blah, 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 blah. I then threw Mace Windu in there. That 4 points could be whatever you want. Like a lot of people are running Wolf instead of Mace. I think it's a play style thing. And then I put Rick in there. And again, this could be anything. You could put Padme in there. You could put Anakin in there. This is like your Saladish 6-ship list. And the idea behind it is I just wanted you to be able to have a 6-ship list that can be versatile in different matters. And, in my world, I don't run a lot of Republic, but in my world, I love Rick. And I love Daredevil Rick personally. But that's just me. I like Daredevil Rick. I like my Daredevil Rick with plasmas as well, though you probably don't need them. I don't know if you have to have plasmas. I think it just kind of, I don't know. You could put passive sensors on there, but I don't think I would do that. Again, to me, it's more of the plasma. Let me take my plasma torpedo, and Rick's either going to shoot a primary because of the maneuver they did, or they're going to shoot a plasma, whatever benefits that situation. I'm a Daredevil Rick though, but that's me.
Yeah,
it is R4P over R4, honestly. Just so you can get like a 3 hard that's blue is pretty nice, as opposed to like the 1 or 2 banks, or like the 1 banks, the 1 straight kind of thing. I like plasma torps on Rick as an option just because he does shoot range 3. And it's a very good opening kind of thing, being I5. You get a lock. Shoot the plasma. and you're going to do more damage on average than you would be just having his normal gun.
Yeah. And to me, Daredevil Rick is like, I don't know, maybe that's just a staple to me because that's what I'm used to, but
Yeah, it dramatically improves his time on target.
you know, it just gives Rick so many more options. But again, the idea behind this is more so that this is a 6-ship Republic list, right? This list is designed to be somewhat of like a hammer, but at the exact same token has the ability to be objective based, right? You have boost and slider. Both will have abilities to have time on target. Both of them are going to have the ability to basically say, whoever you shoot at, as long as they're in my side arc, like I like having both boost and slider because boost allows you to still be able to boost to get out of arcs and still provide a dedicated reroll, right? And slider allows you to take that and then do your side slip, and it's just crazy the position slider can be in for this. This list, the hard time I think this list has is like extreme damage output, right? So if you're going up against a lot of health in like a chance engagement, you're gonna have a harder time, but you're also not gonna bleed points either, right? You're not bleeding a million points. If they half an arc, like you said earlier, it's 5 health, right? To bleed an arc, and you have selfless. So when they start throwing crits, which is a big thing now, you just go, oh, you were gonna half jag? Don't worry about it. You haven't shot it out, Paul. Like he'll take the crit on his shields. Don't worry. And we got an extra shield too, baby. So I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. To me, this feels like a defense based and oriented list. And again, you can sub Mace and Rick out for other ships based on your playstyle. But to me, this is what I would call the quintessential objective style based list, where this one is looking not to kill you with damage, but to plink away and then do objectives for you. Thoughts?
Yeah, I would actually, and this is just me, my jank thoughts is just subbing out Plasmas and R4 and Rick for Juke. And then hilariously enough, if you do like a 3 bank or 3 straight, right, and you end up near slider at the engagement phase, you can Daredevil boost then. And
Not
do a
what
hard
slider
turn.
does. That's
Hey,
not
that's
what
not what
boost
slider
does.
does.
That's not even
Boost,
close
sorry.
to that. That's not
Boost,
what boost
boost.
does, JJ. Boost is only for himself.
Golly, yeah, you're right. I keep on thinking that. I don't know why I keep on thinking that. Sorry, but still, anyway, Juke on Rick. Since he likes to go fast all the time, there, you can, as long as you have if you set yourself up correctly and your dice are, or if you're really gonna go dice heavy, I do like that Juke Daredevil combo, just because you can be ultra aggressive with Rick if you need to, and get out if you need to, and just really make Rick a nuisance with his ability to get out there. Now, I do agree with Alex. R4P17 definitely, or sorry, R4P is the one that reduces the basic maneuvers. Definitely really, really good on the Naboo just to have that hard 3 available. And it makes Rick style open up so much better. So that way you can reliably constantly get those tokens up there and hopefully go faster than your opponent to have Rick be a more reliable 3-die attack, especially if you're going up against like large bases or medium bases. They typically can't go as fast without the fear of going into an obstacle or overlapping a friendly ship. So you're more likely to get Rick's ability off against those ships rather than some of the smaller bases. But yeah.
Yeah, if you want to make it like a slightly more versatile list, and I know it's a staple of Republic, but if you put in SOC Anakin instead of Mace, you suddenly have a nice ace play. You got a nice 6 to help back up Rick. It was pretty solid. I mean, like this kind of list, like 6 ships, you can spread out. They can, you got some pieces that can operate independently of each other. And I don't think it's like particularly bad at any objective. Chance might be a little bit iffy because you're not putting a lot of damage, but you will eventually wear people down. And I think Rick is a little bit underutilized right now in the meta.
Yeah, and I think in this style of list, I think Rick works very well. And again, you can sub any of those 4-point ships out. If you want a third arc, you could put a third arc in there. If you want an Anakin to have a little bit more ace play, you could put it in there. I chose Mace and Rick just because, to me, Mace is that pseudo ace that a lot of people sleep on. Unless you're Sean, then don't run Mace because you lose Mace all the time. But just kidding. But I don't know. Like I enjoy the Mace play, and I really enjoy Rick, and I agree with you. I think people. I don't know. I think if we want to say, hey, Padme might not be as good as we thought she was, this list has extreme consistency and can play objectives. That's what this list can do. You know. It'd be better if we had some bombers that we could take, but we really don't get very good bombers.
Hey, honestly, I think right now some
Republic.
of the most underrated ships in the Republic right now are those cheap 3-point Y-wings. I think that they definitely have a place in the Republic meta that we just haven't seen rise of prominence as of yet. But they definitely have a place in the Republic meta.
I mean, also like knocking down Jag to like kickback, like SOC kickback, and then bumping up CLT Mace to 7P Mace is also not a bad option.
Yeah.
You're seeing that a little bit more in the meta. Someone will knock down a 4-point ship to one of those SOC torrents to bump up a 4-ship into 7B Mace. You saw a little bit at Crossroads and a couple other tournaments here and there.
Yeah. I think the objective play here, they do very well. So I don't know if we need to go through that. Obstacle placement here doesn't matter as much. I mean, if they do place the arcs together, you want to make sure that they can't have an easy lane.
Yeah,
but
don't make those obstacles tight too, because you have 6 ships.
Yeah.
You need a little bit of space for Slider and Boost and Rick.
Yes. Yep. You want things. You don't need things in corners, but you need things spread out. So you're looking for like a base and a half with minimum for everything.
Or small obstacles too. Small obstacles are fine when you have that amount of ships.
Yep, because you're not CIS, you can't land on them.
I will still land on them. I just don't get a benefit.
All right. Fair enough. You need that. All right. Anything else about this list before we wrap up the segment?
No. I mean, I think we're
we've
done a lot.
And just a reminder for newer players are trying to look into getting into these factions and using these meta lists. Just because they are good now doesn't mean there are not other good lists that are waiting to be discovered and played at. As always, I encourage you try out different combinations of ships. You could be the next Duncan Howard in making and find that one combo that works really, really well for you. And who knows, we'll be seeing your worlds with that great list.
If you're looking for a cheap Protorp carrier and you don't like flying Padme, Gavin Sykes is also 4 points, and he gets Sync Council.
Yeah,
so he has a mod slot. Just throwing that out there. Might be a little bit of a spoiler of a Republic list I'm working on.
All right. Well, that was our Academy 101 segment covering Meta Republic lists, how to play them, how to defeat them, and why Padme is not as scary as Luke is.